Well, I said that we would stop and I would show you when it got interesting or a little bit tougher. I thought I was going to get 20 strips into it before that happened. I only got about 14 strips in. She started fighting back on me. So I'm going to show you some tips to get through this and kind of wrestle this bear to the ground. And in order to do that, we're going to use some water, some heat, and a little bit of hot glue. I wanted to show you that using those three items, minus the hot glue of course, I was able to take this stick, this strip here, and in about a 1 foot space, turn it 90 degrees, right? So as you can see, wood is pretty pliable if you work it right. So if we look down here in the boat, I'm going to start with the easy end, and then we'll go down there and we'll get the tough end. But I thought it'd be easy if I at least showed you the concept of what we're going to do down here first. All right, so as I am coming in here, I'm coming around to build you the boat here, and I'm coming in, and then I have to turn it basically straight up and down so that I can meet my stem piece. And as you can see, it doesn't really want to do that. Now I could turn it, force it down, and put a staple into it, and hopefully it would hold, but normally when you do that, what happens is you end up with little spaces all the way down here, right? So let's see if we can avoid some of that. Now, you probably noticed that I got some finger clamps up here, right? So after I get past the first few that are either easy stapling or easy holding with a glue block, then I start putting screws behind the forms here, and I just clamp them down with some finger clamps. So behind each one of these forms, I've got a little 1.5 inch sheetrock or a deck screw screwed in there, and it allows me to put my finger clamps on, and so I can kind of temporarily attach, all right? Well, once I do that, before I start bending things, I want to make some memory marks here, and I'm going to do that up and down the boat so that after I bend everything, I know where to go back to put the strip back, right? All right, so let's see if we can't bend this and make it work. All right, so I got some water here, and the first thing I'm going to do is take that water, and I'm going to wet this strip down in the area that I want it to bend, because when water gets hot, it works better than just hot air. So I'm gonna wet that down. Now I've got this little block that I made, and all I did was drill it out so that I can slide that over here and twist it. Mostly the reason for that is because it starts to hurt your hands after a while, especially on the other end of the boat. You're gonna see I'm gonna be really, really twisting that thing, and when you're holding it, it starts to dig into your hands. So just make yourself a little block. And I'm going to take a heat gun. You can get these, again, this is a DeWalt. You can get them at any of the big box stores. And I'm going to start applying some heat. All right, so you want to overextend it a little bit. Bring it past there a little bit because it's going to spring back a little bit on you. But you can see now, if I do that, if I take a look at this, that it falls nice and flat up against the stem. I don't even have to hold it. Fits on there real nice. I'm going to put a staple in there, and I won't have any trouble with it whatsoever, right? So now I'm transitioning from here. The first one, all I've got is a little clamp on it. She's holding fine. So now it's time to go down to the other end of the boat, and you're going to see that that's a whole different story down here, down there. And but it's the same theory. We'll just get through it. It should probably remind you that as you're going up, you make sure you bevel this on your way up, right? Because as you start to close in, it's going to get harder and harder to get tools in there to actually bevel this. So make sure you stay up on that. Right now I'm beveled up to about this point here. I'll put on 1 or 2 more strips, and I'll probably try to finish her out. Okay, but back to the strip. You can see that if I just try to bring this in and come around, it's just unbelievable. It's pulling away here, it's pulling away here, it doesn't want to go in. Don't get overwhelmed by the whole strip, just take it one little piece at a time, right? So the first thing I need to do is I need to get this so that it's sitting down flat against this form, and as you can see, there's a pretty big gap there. All right, so the first thing I need to do is twist the strip this way. So let's just take this one step at a time. So now I'm going to gently take the strip and see if I can get it down on that very first screw there without breaking the strip. And I have. And again, I waited until this was absolutely as bad as it was going to get. We are turning at the bilge. We are going into the stem. We are turning so that we can get a flatter part of the stem. We've got everything happening here all at once. But you just need to take it a little piece at a time. All right, so now that I've got this on, I know that if I can get it flat to here, I can put glue blocks here to keep it all together. So now I need to deal with this, and you can see that I've got just a huge gap here, and it wants to go this way instead of this way. So what am I going to take care of first? I'm going to take care of twisting it first. And then as we're doing that, we'll push it in as well. So let's do that now. Okay, so again, what we need to do is I need to push this in, and I need to twist it this way so it's going straight up and down. So let's do that now. So let's start by pushing it in a little bit. All right, let's see where that gets us. Okay. All right, so now I'm into that form. So I've got one step left, and that's to twist it straight up and down. Let's do that. All right, well that seems to be the final piece of the puzzle, because now I can hold that down easily with just my thumb. All right, so I think we're probably ready to put some glue on this. Still going to be a wrestling match going on here, but the odds are in my favor at this point. Okay, so if you haven't marked all along here where you need it to fall, do it now. I got one in the middle, I got one on the other end. I'm going to put a mark right here. All right, now I'm going to take this off, and we're going to put some glue on it. All right, so now it should just be a matter of lining up those marks again. I'm going to stop here in the middle. Get my first clamp on. And then I'm just going to work my way up and down the boat. Now down here, because the curves weren't that extreme, I can just go ahead and throw a staple in right now. So if you're building your boat out of staples, using staples, at this point, you're just stapling it in. We'll come back and get that in a second. Let's see if we can't wrestle this in now. Put a clamp there to temporarily hold it, make sure everything's lining up. I'll come down here and do my thing. And you can see a nice tight fit all the way along here. So now it's just a matter of taking care of this bilge turn here, which I knew was going to be the hard part. But now that everything else is in, I'll just go ahead and fight with it for a little bit. All right, keep in mind that we're working with yellow glue here, and yellow glue takes anywhere from, I don't know, 2 to 5 hours to set up, depending on the temperature. So you're gonna have to really take some time here. I don't know how well you can see it, but in between the forms here, we're kind of jumping the bead and cove, right? It's not lined up perfectly. So easy to fix, that's where the hot glue comes in, and that's why you can see all these blocks here. So I am just going to help that along by putting a couple blocks here and there. And when I say a couple, what I really mean is as many as it takes. So I'm gonna tuck that down into the bead and cove, and as long as I hold this long enough, it should hold. Now make sure when you're putting your glue blocks on, you get all this yellow wet glue off of here, because hot glue is not gonna stick really well to that. It'll just slip and slide right off. Now if you come to spots that really aren't that difficult, you can use a little bit of painter's tape. And that is just as simple as taking a piece off, wrapping it around, give yourself a good couple inches on the back. And painter's tape is tough stuff, so you can pull down really hard, pull it down, and then throw your clamp back on. All right. One of the reasons I'm showing you this is if you want to do a completely stapleless boat, this is one way that you do it. Instead of using staples at all these places, you put the screws on the back just like I did here. You clamp it down and you use this painter's tape to basically to make clamps. So again, get it in the groove and pull that painter's tape down nice and tight. Now be careful, if you get the painter's tape that's stretchy, it's going to stretch on you, so make sure you know what tools you're using. Alright, and again, instead of having a staple there, I will just take my clamp and clamp it right down and continue to do tape all the way down. Now there are going to be some places down here in the bilge here where it's making that sharp curve. Painter's tape's not going to do it. And the reason for that is not only do you have to keep the bead and cove together, but you have to help the strips turn. Just for a few strips, it'll be about 5 or 6 strips here where it's going to want to stand up straight. Don't let it do that. As you're doing it, use these glue blocks to twist your strip, put the glue block down. That'll help make the corner for you. Okay, I'm just going to finish up and go right on down the line here. All right, so while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to show you how to take those blocks off. Now, I'm not going to do them all now because this isn't really the time that I would do that, but this down here has been dried for a couple of days, and you take it off the same way it goes on with heat. So just warm it up. All right, so that's the safest way to take it off. Just add a little heat to it, and then later on I'll come back with a nice sharp chisel, and this will come right off. The chisel is so that we're not wasting tons and tons of sandpaper, because this will goo up your sandpaper butt quick. Okay, well, you've seen the whole thing. This is as hard a turn as it gets to be on a canoe or kayak or strip boat. I've done a lot of boats. Doesn't get any harder than what I just showed you. If you can do what I just did, you're home free. That's fact. All right, and so in case you're asking yourself, because I know there's a lot of designs out there where none of that even happens, it's just nice and round, just like it is in the front here, and it's real simple to turn them, twist them by hand, and staple them on. There's a reason why I do this. First off, it looks great, and when you're going to see when it's done, it's really a good-looking boat, but that's not why I do it, right? Because when you put a boat in the water, There's a lot of forces acting on that boat. How long it is, how wide it is, how flat it is on the bottom, what the round sides are at the bilge, whether it's got tumble home and all that. And you will find in boats that have this type of design that when it comes back flat like there, we're almost creating a skeg, right? And what's a skeg used for? Keeps the boat going straight, keeps it tracking. And that's important when you're talking about an 8, 10, 12, 14-foot boat. You want it to go straight, and you're going to see in our double kayaks that we have rudders. But if you don't need a rudder, if you don't have to put a rudder in there, you don't want to have a rudder in there because it's just one more thing you got to think about with your feet going back and forth. For the double kayaks, we do it. I once had a customer told me that a rudder saved his marriage because his wife couldn't keep the boat going straight. Put a rudder on it, now all of a sudden everything's going straight, right? But when you're doing boats like this, the less the better. You know, you don't want to really have to deal with that. So I design in a real nice curve to the back so that it acts a little bit as a rudder. In the front, why do we do it in the front? Well, we do it in the front so that we can cut down on the buoyancy of the bow of the boat. And what does that do for you? Well, if you're out in a chop or if you got some waves coming at you, you know, 1, even up to 2 feet, instead of every time you're hitting a wave riding up and hopping over it, you can slice right through it, right? That's the difference. So there's a reason why we add these little features. It's not just to make your life more difficult. That being said, it really does look good when you take a look at those curves when you're done. All right, parting words. If there's anything I could say to you that would be incredibly important that you shouldn't forget, never, ever, ever walk away from your boat until these strips are exactly where you want them to be. And I think I may have already said that, but boy, I cannot stress that enough. You know, walk up and down this boat, you've got an hour to work on it on a strip with yellow glue, at least before it starts to set. So go up and down, put blocks where you need, put clamps where you need. Later on, I'll even show you how we put a bungee cord across there to hold it on. But that's it. That's the trick I'm going to show you this far. And now I'm going to strip up a little bit more. And as we start to get to the top where it turns out of the stems, we're going to stop and we'll show you that. And that looks to me to be about 4 or 5 strips away.